I love that you just said that because I was talking to my creative director, Will, today, like actually an hour ago, about all of the smart people that are in my network, right?
Mhm.
I'm a member of this mastermind called Flight Club. We meet in Vegas 3 times a year. And I mean, these heavy hitters, right? Like I've met some billionaires in there. I've met some people that have exited their business at 9 figures, So I've trained my staff to go, let's not try and solve this problem. Let's try and find the right person that has probably already solved this problem 100 times over so that they can give us their take and go, yes, this is what you need to do, or just hire that person to solve that problem.
Everybody, today's guest is Armando Leduc. He's an actor, an entrepreneur, and a CEO of Leduc Entertainment. He helps creators and business owners use their voice and personal brand to scale impact and opportunity. And this episode is about turning your message into momentum, whether you're a small business entrepreneur or a podcast person. And Armando, you just have so much experience that I want to tap into that. And let's hit some nuggets today. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. I remember meeting you at that conference, and we're like, dude, love what you're doing. The energy is fantastic. You're just an all around good guy, man. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for that because it's fun to be at a conference. And one of the highlights for me is after I speak and I'm on stage, it's about meeting the people in the audience, right? And why you're there or what networks you can make and how I might be able to help you. And you and I hit it right off. And you invited me to be a guest on your podcast on Spaghetti on the Wall.
Yep.
And you're so giving with your time. And I love that. And we hit it off right away. And so can you please give a 30-second intro to yourself? You have 29 seconds now because I've already wasted a second. But
Now 26.
what is it that you really do? What impact are you making for small businesses and entrepreneurs and lawyers? How are you taking their message and creating a movie style, business style for them cinematically? How are you doing that?
So we found that most entrepreneurs are really great at what they do. They're not necessarily the best at talking about what they do in marketing, and that's why they hire marketing companies. And I think a lot of people suffer with this imposter syndrome
Mm-hmm.
of who's going to listen to me? Why do I matter? Why does my perspective matter? Why is my opinion worthwhile? And so as we've gone through our journey of being a production company, what we've found is as a through line for everybody is that we're helping entrepreneurs unleash their voice so that they can become their authentic self, so that they can really impact the world with their message. And us sort of being a coach and holding their hand through that process is something that we've done extremely well, right? Have we helped businesses launch and create, 7, 8 figures in revenues? Yes. But I would say more importantly, we have unleashed people's voices and authenticity
Mm-hmm.
through stage time, being on social media, podcasting, the whole nine, that they can now create more of an impact because they believe in themselves. And the confidence comes from the actual stage time, not talking about it, not reading about it, not by osmosis, like actually going through it
Yeah.
and failing at it, but learning through that process. And so some people just need a handhold, and that's what we do better than anybody.
Well, it's about getting those repetitions in, right? And you're never going to get good if you don't start. But that can be the deer in the headlight moment where it's so terrifying. And I don't mean just like getting in front of an audience of 5,000 people, but it's like even being on a podcast, people are terrified of doing so. I've invited so many guests and they're like, I don't think I would do well because I'm afraid of what I would sound like or what I would look like or whatever. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So it's like getting those repetitions in and having someone that you feel comfortable with and a relationship that you have with that person, and let's say a client, is so imperative. So what is the biggest roadblock that people or challenge that people are so afraid of with that imposter syndrome that you are able to hold their hand? What have you found has been the biggest roadblock for people to voice their authenticity and their message?
I think it's the head trash that just is happening internally that you have to actually get them to vocalize it. They did an experiment in the 60s or 70s where they put a bunch of people in a dark room with no light, no sound, like pitch black, and people went insane except for one guy, right? One guy, all he did was the entire time was, I'm walking around, verbalized it. I'm walking
Yeah.
around. I'm touching the bed. I'm touching the walls. This is a room. And what they found was the anxiety started to leave when you started to verbalize what it is that you were doing, which is why now Navy SEALs, every single step of the process where they're like, all right, we're entering now. Okay, we're doing this. Okay, we're doing that now. It stops the overthinking and it stops
Mhm.
the anxiety. Surgeons also do that when they're like, okay, scalpel, okay, making the incision, okay, this, that. So that's what they learned from that experiment. And to say this is, as you verbalize
Yeah.
your anxiety and as you verbalize what you're going through real time, you start to understand that, oh, okay, it's subsiding my anxiety. It's starting to let me know that it's just my head trash on overdrive. And if you aren't verbalizing that stuff real time, that's when you start to just kind of build it up in your mind, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where you're just like, there's no way I can do it. Right.
Sure.
So that's the first
Talk
thing that
yourself
we
out
kind of
of it.
teach is just say,
Mhm.
hey, let's just talk about it. What are you feeling right now? Okay, my heart's racing, my palms weak, arms are heavy, mom spaghetti. But you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but
You went
as they're
Eminem on
doing
me. I
it,
love it.
I know, right? But as they're doing it, they start to understand that it's not really a big deal. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just their amygdala going off, kicking in the fight or flight response. And so we're like, all right, how do we get that to go down and go down and go down and go down? And so just repetition and the doing, they start to understand that about themselves, and the anxiety
Mhm.
starts to go down, stage fright starts to go down, and then they start moving into this more just this blossoming effect where they're like, oh wow, I do have an opinion, and now I don't really have to worry about the anxiety. Now
Yeah.
I'm focused on my message, and
Yeah.
so
Do
things
you
like
feel
that.
like as in because you've been in a ton of movies, you've been in a ton of commercials and a ton of shows,
Mhm.
and do you think that experience has given you the ability to be like, "Wow, if I could do it, I know how to share that as well?"
1,000%, right? You, as an actor, and as you know, because you're an actor, I
Mhm.
mean, how many auditions do we go through and hear the word no
Yeah.
to get to the yes, right? Like it's just
Mhm.
tons and tons of no, tons and tons of no. And so I think that helps build up the resiliency that we have. I think that's why actors, I love hiring actors in the company,
Mhm.
as salespeople and as people like that, because they're such a resilient group of people, right? They hear the word no and they're like, all right, that's not the end of the world. Let's just keep working, right?
Mhm.
And being in film and doing going through those motions and hearing the word no has really helped with that resiliency, with that irreverence. There was a really good book called Irreverent Acting by Eric Morris, which was a really good book, and it just
Mhm.
talked about how do we become irreverent? How do we become this? Where we get into the psychology of we don't really care what other people think because we have a craft, right?
Yeah.
And I've learned from some really amazing acting teachers where if you don't have a craft, if you don't have a way to approach the work, then you're not really going to like overcome the all of the head trash that's going on in your brain,
Yeah.
because when you have a workflow and you've done karate, I love how you say karate, but martial arts,
Apparently I sound French
it
when I say
I know,
it.
right? But the work that you do and the practice that you have creates the confidence, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how do you approach the work? How do you approach everything? And for
Mhm.
me, how I'm running my business, how I'm teaching somebody to be on camera, it's all about the practice of it. And I don't think people can really approach a new endeavor if they don't have a way to approach it. If it's just kind of willy-nilly and there's no real starting place, it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to like absorb. I used to my first business actually was a swing Latin and ballroom studio. I used to teach back in when I was 21. I opened
Last
up the
year.
dance studio. Right. And what I loved about it with the Fred Astaire model was that it was super structured. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to teach you these steps. This is how you're going to learn. You're going to go, it's super methodical. We're going to teach you exactly what you need to do. And then once you get the step down, then you can add the flourish. Then you can bring the head, the shoulders back, and you can bring your frame. But we got to start with the feet. You can't talk about frame until we're talking about the feet.
Wow. Okay. I want to push pause on that for a second, because that is the benefit of going to school. Like if you go to college or if you're in school, it's like, you know what classes you need to take in order to get a degree in X, Y, or Z, right? Like, you know that you need to take these, but then as soon as you've graduated and as soon as you have the diploma or you have that certificate, now what? Right. And that's the benefit of school, is that they set it up in a format like, this is how you get to this, so that you gain that knowledge, you get all that reading in and that experience. And then all of a sudden it's like, now the world is open to you. And I think that you're setting people up, you're teeing people up in order to begin gaining that confidence. You're showing them a format and the power of creating a brand and an image, and you're giving them that platform, but then it is up to them. How do you give them that little push? What is that reminder? Like, you've got this. What is it that you tell them?
I liken it to being a personal trainer. It's all like, Blue, we can talk about this push-up. I can explain the mechanics of the push-up. We can talk about what kind of clothes you need to wear when you do the push-up. But at a certain point, you just got to do the push-up. Like, let's just go do the push-up. Right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about technique later. Let's just go and get the first one done. Right. And so in our consulting calls, we'll have like a lot of role play and we'll go, all right, let's do this. Answer this question. Great. Let's do it again. All right. Now let's talk about where you're coming from. Where's your head at? You know, what are you trying to accomplish here? How can you be less verbose? How can we take out the ahs and the ums? And how can we do that? Right. But like, we start with the
push-up.
doing, just do the push-up.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and so it's getting those repetitions in and then looking back and saying, oh, I can do the push-up. It might not look as good as Armando's, for example, but I can do it. And you start to get those repetitions and you're obviously doing that. At what point in time did you realize like the power or the importance of having that brand and that image with your business? Like, did you realize I have to step out and I have to get better at something? Like, when did you realize that there was a transition point that you needed to take your brand and your image and move it to the next, to scale, in order to grow?
Super easy. Because I know the day. Lewis, who runs 8-figure firm, we went to high school together, was like, Armando, you have $1 million business. You just don't know how to get there. And I was like, okay. So starts mentoring
You laugh?
me.
Or were you like, oh, whatever.
The head trash was like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. But because he had been so successful, I was like, well, I'm going to listen, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to listen. And so, and he was like, you got to actually come out of pocket though, right? Like, I can teach you for free, but you're not going to be able to unlock the things until you like actually put money into it so that you know that you're fully committed. And I was like, okay. And so I did. And he was like, you're also a production company and you don't produce any videos for yourself. Like, what are you doing? Right? Like, nobody knows you. You're doing it for everybody else, but you're not doing it for yourself. And that year was 2020. That year, I think we made 69,000 for the year. And when we started
just shy of 8 figures. Just shy of 8 figures. Okay.
So we started creating content, right? I started creating content, started building my personal brand, putting content out there. We went from 69K for 2020 to $500,000 in 2021. And it was insane.
All because you started working on your brand image.
100%. Well, and I will tell you, it's all tied, right?
Sure.
Because I started creating content and I was scared just like everybody else. Well, what am I going to do? It was kind of...
I'm scared. I'm scared. It's like working on my brand, working on my image. No one knows me in this field. Everyone knew me in the martial arts. Everyone knew me in the personal training studio. And then all of a sudden it was like, write a book. then all of a sudden become a podcaster, it's become a public speaker. It's like every time I put a new shirt on, I was unknown and terrifying to invest in yourself and to put that content out to become known. And it sounds like, okay, so you're at that point in 2020, you had to spend a little money in order to hopefully make some money.
Sure.
And you went to over $500,000. Okay, tell me about that emotion. Like it was amazing. You felt like you were on the right track.
When we started just closing deals, because people saw me on social media, the credibility went up. My confidence grew as I got better at producing the content, right?
Mhm.
As I got better at answering questions, and I don't think I got better at answering the questions. I just got more, I don't care. Like I just became more irreverent about, I don't really care what people think. I'm just going to create this content anyway.
Mhm.
And as I went through that process, my confidence grew. And as my confidence grew, I was able to sell better. I was able to close business easier. I was able to connect with people better. Like people knew what we did in our company and it was easier for them to buy. And, and so all of that stuff just snowballed as a result. And so when I got there, it was just like, oh, wow. It wasn't a surprise that I got to $500,000. It was like, oh, I should have made $1 million already,
Mhm.
right? Because the confidence grew so quickly as a result of like cranking out this content.
Mhm.
And I just really did not understand the value of it until later on when you go back and you were like, wow, how did I grow that quickly? Holy shit, I implemented, I was doing the thing and I just didn't care. I just became methodical with it. And I was like, all right, every month I have a shoot day. I'm putting out content. I started my podcast and that, I'll tell you, my podcast just changed everything for me.
This is spaghetti on the wall.
Spaghetti on the wall.
Okay.
I've been invited into some amazing rooms. I went to Antarctica 2 months ago because I met somebody on my podcast. And it was an incredible experience. But my podcast was a reason why I've also met some of the people that I've met. Rufus, my financial advisor, John Glon, my Bloom Growth coach, Karen Quintanilla, my fractional CFO, like I have all these people that I had brought on my podcast that we ended up doing business together and they were instrumental in helping me scale my business, right? It's a who, not how issue.
Well, okay, so it's your confidence team. But you cannot create a confidence team if you're not communicating with people and creating relationships with other people. And the people that are inviting you to Antarctica and want to work with you or work for you aren't going to do that if they don't trust you. How did you gain the trust and create a relationship with these people so quickly?
I think when people see you on a regular basis on social media, it's the familiarity that goes, oh, I know that guy, right?
Yeah.
And then they see other people coming onto the podcast and they go, oh, wow, he got so-and-so on the podcast. Like I interviewed Gino Wickman and do you know Gino Wickman?
And so you're legit. It's almost street credibility, right? Okay.
Yes. And so the credibility grows easy on the podcast when you invite high-level people to the podcast. You're cranking out content of you answering questions and creating authority. And look, I know everybody's going into AI. I know they are. I would really like take a step back and go, okay, AI is low-hanging fruit and it's going to be very easy to create content. But you talking and you really being in front and showing that authentic self, that's what's really going to sell here in 2027, 2028. And I'm in a bunch of different masterminds, that are marketing masterminds. And they're all like, yes, absolutely use AI, but the authenticity and that human connection is going to be crucial if you're going to want to grow your business.
Well, okay. So you just tapped in. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
After a car accident, insurance companies will take every shot they can to leave you with nothing. But at Dubin Law, the game isn't over until you get the money you deserve. So call Dubin Law and add us to your roster today.
You're going to want to grow your business.
Well, okay. So you just tapped into that. I just asked you, how did you build the trust and the meaningful relationships with the clients and the people that you've met within your mastermind and you've brought in? You did not do that with AI. You
No.
could not do that with AI. You could get in front of people more because of content. The more content that's pushed, then obviously people see you and know you. But that's not creating trust and it's not creating a relationship. And so you've been stellar at that. And you make these relationships with people. And within those groups of your confidence team, everybody's helping you grow, but you're also helping them.
I I don't know if it's because I grew up as an army brat, and I think it might be. As an army brat, you have to move every 3 years,
Mhm.
right? So for me, I was like, all right, I got to make friends very quickly because I may not see these people again in the next 3 years. Obviously, social media has helped that process, but it helped me like kind of meet people quicker
Mhm.
and just really connect with people and go, oh, here are the connection points, right? Like, oh, here's why people uh like to talk to me. And I read that book, the Five Love Languages,
Mhm.
and how to win friends and influence people and things like that. And
Beautiful book.
so
Yeah.
I just infuse that into my daily interactions, right? Words of affirmation, gift giving, acts of service, quality time, right? And so if you're if you're consistently doing this with every relationship, it just stacks and compounds over and over again. And then you become like sort of top of mind with a lot of people where they're all like, oh, you should meet with Armando because he knows a bunch of people. He's got a huge
Mhm.
network and he can help you here. And you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, who is he? And then they'll Google me and they'll see that all of the videos that I put out all have stacked up over time to create the authority and credibility and trust that you need to scale a business.
Okay, and that goes for any business, honestly. And when people talk about having a social presence, they don't mean like being on Facebook and posting every once in a while. It's like, what is your authority on other podcasts, on news stations, in movies, or in a commercial, or the people that you're connecting with? What parties are you being invited to? And I don't mean like a gala, more of a gala, or like a conference, or some kind of mastermind group. Because if you're surrounded by that group of people, it all of a sudden gives you that street credibility. And it seems like you've been able to, but it didn't start yesterday. It took some time. And was there this snowball effect that you were like, oh my gosh, the dollar that I'm investing is actually giving me $2 or $3 back?
The dollar I'm investing is giving me $10, $20 back. Like it's compounded that fast. And business for me is all about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If what I really found, my first podcast was with Lewis, right? Which is how this whole thing started anyway. It was during COVID and I was like, hey man, let's get on a Zoom and I just kind of want to like interview you, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm going to do with this, but I want to know how you became so successful with your law firm.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed him. 3 months later, he calls me up, says, hey, I'm starting this company called 8-Figure Firm. Can you come out and shoot content for me? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started shooting content for him. And I just was around more driven and growth minded individuals. And I started to see what they were doing, and success leaves clues. Right. And so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, implementation. And the one of the big things he always says is, the speed of growth in your business is tied to the speed of implementation. Right. If you can implement quick, you can grow fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, they get caught up with, I'm the best at this, so I need to do it. And I'm like, how can I not have to do this again? Right.
Yes.
And delegate and delegate and delegate and delegate. And so as I started learning more about how people implemented and what KPIs were and all of that, I was like, okay, let me just implement as quickly as possible, find the right people, and then grow. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years. And it's just been working beautifully. And relationships, like I was telling you, a lot of the people that work for me have been with me for 4 or 5 years, right? My longest employee, my lead editor, has been with me for 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, because I'm always cognizant of, I have to convince him on a weekly basis why he should still be working here. I never take for granted that my employees are going to stick around because they
Right.
have options, right?
Yeah.
So I'm also cognizant. I'm like, all right, how do I make this a more enjoyable place to work so that they want to be here, right? And so I'm giving them an ear, and I'm, thinking about mental health and physical health and time off, and you know what I mean,
Well, you
rather
show
than just
your
like,
appreciation. You show your appreciation. You show how grateful you are, and you share that, right? You introduce them to other people. You let them understand that this doesn't have to be the only job you ever have. You can move on. I want you to succeed, right? And showing that success is spectacular. One of the things that stood out with me is after being a guest on your podcast, you sent me a thank you card and you sent me a little box like in the Matrix. And it's
mm,
like you do anything to stand out, to show your appreciation or gratefulness to the person for the time that I gave.
right.
And you're making people feel like $1,000,000. And that one of the secrets that you've also implemented, like to continuously stay above the competition. You're always trying to find a way to go above and beyond to show appreciation.
It's all systemized. I can show you over here. Actually, you're funny. You're talking about the Matrix box, because we're putting together. We've kind of changed it up a little bit, because I made a comic book called The Chronicles of Count Carlos, and I made a movie called Bourbon Whiz, and so I am sitting on like a bunch, like 1,000 copies, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna kind of put this together in a little gift bag,
Like a media
and
kit or something?
yeah, like a media
Okay.
kit, and it has a sheet that says, "Hey, want you to know that Leduc Entertainment isn't just a video production company. We're a creative agency that can help you take it to the next level." And then I put a red and a blue gumball in there, and then the QR code takes them to the Matrix video that you saw.
Mhm.
And so they're getting this, and they're like, it's all part of the experience. So I'm automating all of this stuff in Go High Level, the CRM that we use.
Mhm.
So at every step of the process, there's a trigger that goes out to one of my team members that says, "Oh, now do this, now do this, now do this." And I think a lot of business owners are trying to rely on AI to do everything, and AI can do some things, but it can't do everything, right?
Okay,
And
let me stop you really quick, because
sure,
I think what I'm hearing you say that it really interests me is that it's you automate things like E-Myth or something like that, where they're talking about like you can work the business or you can work in the business, right? Working on the business, versus working in the business, but you're staying top of mind and you're trying to think of ways of going above and beyond. And AI is not going to do that for you. You have to do it. So here's my question. Is it you as the head that constantly brainstorms and thinks, or is it your team? Because as an entrepreneur, everything's in my mind, Armando. Everything is like, okay, I could try this. Oh, I could try this. And once it works, I could systemize it and I could write it down so I could turn key and give it to someone that I scale with. But it's like, how have you been successful? Is it that you just do you have like a brainstorming monthly week or a weekly meeting where you're like, what would you do to scale? What is an idea? Let's think outside the box. Like, what can we do? Because you could be the brains behind everything, but you don't have the skill set for everything. You're not a spring chicken like me. I need to bring on a spring chicken who knows how to do something. So what have you done to be the brainstorm and come up with these ideas? Because it can't all be just in your head, and you can't rely on AI.
I love that you just said that, because I was talking to my creative director, Will, today, like actually an hour ago, about all of the smart people that are in my network, right?
Mhm.
I'm a member of this mastermind called Flight Club. We meet in Vegas 3 times a year. And I mean, these heavy hitters, right? Like I've met some billionaires in there. I've met some people that have exited their business at 9 figures, so I've trained my staff to go, let's not try and solve this problem. Let's try and find the right person that has probably already solved this problem 100 times over, so that they can give us their take and go, yes, this is what you need to do, or just hire that person to solve that problem. Right.
Mhm.
And so now you're fast tracking everything. Sure. Can you use ChatGPT to do the things and help you brainstorm? Yes. And I do that a lot. But I'm also the book Who Not How from Dan Martell, life-changing book, because I'm like, who do we need, not what do we need, right? Who do we need, not how do we figure this thing out? And so now, as I'm learning about who and finding those who's and using my podcast to find those who's, we do that all the time too. I'm like, Will, we need somebody to handle this. Great. Let's find the pro and bring them to the podcast, create a relationship, and then see if we can work together. And then we're off to the races. Web designers, SEO specialists, YouTube optimization specialists, social media managers, COOs, CMOs, CFOs, financial advisors, my therapist, like everybody. my therapist.
Tell me everything, please. Oh my gosh. I love that. Yeah. Well, but okay. So you talked about personal training, and one of the, as a strength coach and a personal trainer, one of the greatest things, I was somebody's like therapist all the time. But what I realized is that we're not alone. Like, we all go through problems, right? And it's like, if I can talk to people who have been through a problem that maybe I'm encountered, or something that I want to solve, or I want to scale, just ask them. And if you have a relationship with them, people are just like, this is how I did it. Maybe you should try it too. And you can try it, and maybe it will work, and maybe it won't work for you, but you've been stellar at that. And so how do you meet with your team? Like, how do you just, what is the best way for you to systemize brainstorming within your group? Do you just have a powwow where everybody comes together at a table and you have a round table and you talk? Or does everybody have like a big DM chat that you can like go? Or do you all go to different mastermind groups and you learn, and then you come back together and you say, this is what I learned, and how do we scale ourselves, our business?
Yeah. Good question. We run on Bloom Growth. It's an operating system. And we have our Bloom Growth coach, John, who comes in annually, and we create our annual goals, and then we break them up into quarters. And so I used to give my organization what they call organizational whiplash. I would go to a mastermind and I'd be like, "Ooh, got to implement this, got to implement this, got to implement this, got to," and so they would just, like, my team would just be kind of running around.
Almost like the grass is greener on the other side, like a shiny toy syndrome.
Oh my God. It was the worst. It was the worst. Right.
And as a leader, that's hard. That's hard. As a leader, you're like, am I doing something wrong? Why are we not seeing the traction? Right. Okay. Correct. Continue, please.
Yeah. And so and I'm an idea guy, right? Like, ideas for me is just 30 a minute. Right. Mm-hmm. My problem wasn't coming up with the ideas. My problem was, how do we focus on the right things that we know as an organization that are going to get us to the next level, right? And so that's what we do in our quarterly meetings, where that's my time. There's a really good book. It's called The 6 Types of Working Genius by Pat Lencioni. Change my organization. It's a personality assessment tool, and the acronym is called WIDGET. And so you have people that are high in wonder. These are people that love to ask questions, super curious, tinkerer types, right? Then you have idea guys, that's me, right? Can come up with 30 ideas a minute. Then you have discernment people that are good at like discerning whether or not an idea is good, picking it apart. Then you have the galvanizers that are all like, let's go, we got the idea, motivates the team. Enablement are people that are like, I don't need the spotlight. You tell me what to do, I'm going to go do it. And then tenacity are the people that are like, hey, I'm going to take this project to the finish line.
Yeah.
And hallelujah, we gave this assessment to everybody, found out that my sister, who's my project manager, is high on discernment and high on tenacity, which is why we've grown, because she is really good at discerning whether or not an idea is good. And then she can pull that project across the finish line every time, because she wants to know, hey, this needs to happen. And she's just militant about it. And we're like, great. So she's attention to detail, all of that. I'm ideas and galvanizing, so I can like come up with the ideas and motivate everybody to do it. I've got amazing enablement people that are just like tasks, they get them accomplished. It's great. And then my wonder people stay in the meetings with the brainstorms, right? So as you're talking about, well, how do I brainstorm and how do I, come up with the ideas? Those are for your quarterlies and your annual meetings. And find the people that are good at that, because you don't want a bunch of discernment people in a brainstorm meeting, because they're going to derail the energy very quickly. You just want to stay and brainstorm, figure it out. And then you bring the discernment in to go, okay, that will work. This may not work. This is a half-brained idea. That's not. Then you guys get it all the way down to the priorities, and then you roll with that. And then you stay out of it. The day-to-day, the weekly meetings are just to make sure that, are we on track with our quarterly priorities? Are we hitting our KPIs on our weekly basis, right? And if we're not, then either is it a personnel issue, is it a education issue, is it a threshold issue, and then at that point, that's what you're discussing in your leadership meetings. And then you have your department meetings that get handled on their own, right? So I have production meetings happening for the production team. I have marketing meetings happening for the marketing team, sales meetings, leadership, finance. And so it's all happening independent, but the leadership meeting sort of keeps everybody on track, saying, hey, this is the North Star. This is what we've all decided that is going to grow the company. And so that's been the biggest thing that we've implemented in our business that has helped us scale properly, where we're not pulling our hair out. Because I used to have hair, but
That's all great,
I
and it looks great.
know, right? It's all great. But I will say, like, when we grew half a million in a year, it was not pretty. Like, I will say that, like, it was a lot of growing pains because we were not in any position to scale that fast. Right? We were bringing people in.
So you implemented quickly, and you were learning on the fly,
and we learned on the fly.
There were mistakes that were being made,
and we burned some people, right? Not in a bad way. They were just like, Armando, I love what you guys are doing, but it's a disaster. Like, you guys don't know your head from your ass. You know what I mean? Like, what are you guys doing? You guys are doing good product, but like, we have no idea what we're shooting when we're shooting it, and blah, 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 blah. So, but as you learn, you go, oh, I have to implement a strategy to fix that thing, and how to fix this thing and this thing, right? And so over
you started with your push-ups. You just started doing the push-ups, and then you realized, like, if I do this in a weighted vest, it's harder than with just a t-shirt, right? And so you started to see what worked and what did not work, even though it was costly.
100%. But it wasn't, and look, I try to self-implement EOS for a long time, but it wasn't until, and I'll shout out to John Glon, man, our Bloom Growth coach, because like, he really made it a digestible system. Because it wasn't like, he was just like, I'm going to hold your hand through this process the same way, right? A lot of the methodology, I think, after working with John Glom for the last 2 years, the way that Bloom Growth has helped us hold our hand through the scaling and systemizing the process is the same way we're also handling our consulting and holding the hands of our clients.
Because it works.
It works.
If it was so easy, everybody would be a black belt, right? And it's not. So there has to be a system put into place, and that system can only be designed after you've gone through the growing pains and you've learned from mistakes. I mean, it would be awesome if you had the perfect system immediately, but any big business didn't do it alone. They went through their challenges. Any person didn't do it alone. They had to bring on a team of people. So you went in from your second year, went into 500,000, but for somebody just starting out, for example, like, what's the first hire that you would see as an entrepreneur that they need to bring on? Or is that somebody that they, like a part-time person? Like, what would you tell someone who's afraid to take that leap and to begin implementing quicker? What would your advice be, like, who they hire or who they bring on as an entrepreneur?
The first hire for me was an editor, because I was doing all of the editing and it was killing my time. I was just spending all of my time editing. So I was like, okay, what's the biggest time suck? What is the biggest thing that you're doing right now that like is taking up all of your time? And that could be the thing that you're delivering, right? It could be the widget that you're selling or the service that you're offering, right? And a lot of people don't want to delegate that task.
They want to hang on. They want to hang on to that power, because the only person who can do it the best is them, right?
A lot of videographers have this problem. That's why they won't scale. I used to think that lawyers had the biggest egos. Videographers, man, they have huge egos, right? Because they're all like, oh, nobody can light it like me, and nobody can shoot it like me, and nobody can edit like me. And I'm like, great, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, you have a ceiling, right? You might be able to shoot all of this stuff, but then you're going to be in your room for hours editing and editing and editing and editing. So like, the biggest thing, I'm like, if you're a videographer, hire an editor first, learn how it feels to delegate. That's another thing too. I think that entrepreneurs or first timers don't really understand how to delegate properly. and because they don't have practice at it. So what I would do is, if you've never delegated, if you've never managed people, maybe find a thing that you can delegate that's small. Could be admin tasks, could be something like research that you need to do on something. Go to Fiverr or Upwork and hire one person to do a small thing that doesn't cost you a lot of money, that can take some time off of your plate, and so that you can understand what it is to delegate. Because
And
I
how to
think
ask
that,
the right questions, right? How to ask
yeah,
the right question, how to ask the right question. Is this the person to hire? Like, do they
right.
fit within that widget scale, like that personality test? Like, who do I really need? And so I love that, because going through the growing pains myself, it's like I speak. Well, speaking on stage is like 5% of the time. Everything else is the networks and the contacts and the prospecting and the finding the gigs. But then let's take that job. I'm a podcast host. So it's like finding the guests, editing, producing, all these things. I had to hire out in order to do it. I could probably figure out how to do it. I mean, I could watch YouTube videos till the cows come home, but it is so worth my time to hire out to somebody who's an expert at it. And that's like Brendan is that for me. It's like, I could figure this out, but why? My job is to get the guests on here and ask the right questions, and so that I can learn, so that the audience can learn something and take value with it, not whether or not it's produced well. Like that's somebody else that can help me do that to scale myself.
1,000%. There's a really cool exercise. You're going to draw a line down the paper and then one across. In the top left-hand corner are things that make you money and things that fill you up, right? Your superpowers, everything that you do really well. This is where you should be living, right? Top right-hand corner are things that make you no money, but fill you up. All of your hobbies, right? Things that, spending time with family, things like that. You should be spending your time up here, right? Then you have the bottom right quadrant, which is things that make you no money and things that don't fill you up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Avoid these or try to purge
like
them.
Or people or tasks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then things that make you money but don't fill you up, also delegatable tasks, right? So when you every quarter, I kind of go through, I have this thing called Harvest. It's a time tracker for me. And I just kind of put in there what I do on a daily basis. And what do I hate? What do I love? What fills me up? And then I go do this quadrant every quarter. So I'm like, delegate. Because as I'm moving up into different areas, a whole nother set of tasks and responsibilities start to arise.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, now I'm in this place, right? Like now I'm in a place where I'm like having to manage people a lot, right? So now I'm like, okay, now I have to delegate and find a good director of ops so that I can teach them how to keep track of KPIs and how to talk to people and manage my team properly and blah, blah, blah. Right. So now that's what I'm, looking to hire. Right. It's just.
Yeah. You're constantly growing and you're constantly staying curious, because even though your title goes up or your income goes up, it's not like problems go away. All of a sudden you have to learn a whole new set of skill sets, right? And how to manage people. And so that's constantly growing, and you're staying with that. And so when you did that, like, how scary was it for you to delegate and relinquish that power? Like, was that easy for you, or was that difficult as the founder?
Very difficult at first. Very difficult at first, right? Because you do. You're like, holy shit, I need to be able to, they're going to expect me, right? And I do it a certain way, and that's what they expect, and blah, blah, blah. You just got to understand that, like, in entrepreneurship, your team is not going to care as much as you. They're just not, right? They don't own the business, and that's okay. 70% or 75% is great. That's what I expect. I expect 75% good. And if I can expect 75% good and I can create fail safes within my business, I'll tell you the quick story. My biggest acting job ever was me working as a health and safety officer at the Mercedes-Benz plant. I needed like 30 hours of OSHA training and like a 4-year degree and at least 10 years in the construction field. And this was after Hurricane Katrina. And I became friends with this health and safety officer here. And he was like, oh, you could do this job over there. And But what I did learn as a health and safety officer over there, which didn't last very long, about 3 months. I didn't like the job anyway.
Sure.
That's a whole nother story. But in these plants, they have what they call engineering controls. And engineering controls are just things that are in place to stop human error, right? So like, for instance, like, you know, the saws that stop and break as soon as a finger shows up, that's an engineering control, right? So every time an accident happened at these assembly plants, they would go, oh, this is happening on a consistent basis. We have to figure out an engineering control to stop that potential from happening. And so now, as I'm looking at my business, I'm going, here are the problems. Here's where a problem could occur. So how can I create an engineering control or a fail safe so that I know that if there is a human error here, there's at least something there to back it up, right? So that the ball doesn't get dropped. And so I'm constantly looking at my business in that way, which is kind of weird. I'm sure not a lot of people have, but it's something that I learned so well, like at an assembly plant, because I was like, oh yeah, this is an assembly line, right? If somebody, we invite somebody to the podcast, that's the first step. They accept, now they're in the second step. Then we book them, that's in the third step. Then they record, they're in the fourth step. Then after that, they're in this step, right? So it's all an assembly line, right? And so there's touch points within every single phase. So it's really important to also go through your client journey and really nitpick it apart. Like, how do you take somebody from A to Z? And what are all of the steps? And there's a really good book called Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. Highly recommend that book, on how do you create amazing touch points throughout the entire client journey so that people are like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that too. Oh, I like that as well, right? And you're intentionally putting all of those touch points into place ahead of time so that when you add it to your system, you can teach people how to deliver that particular thing in that way every single time. And that's how you create a nice client journey.
But your ability to teach someone that and to create that system takes skills. It takes repetitions. Like, you just don't know it immediately. So it obviously, you're learning on the fly. You're learning as the process goes. And so you're doing your push-up and you're just learning how to do more push-ups or more effective push-ups the entire time. But you had to start, and you had to start being able to learn how to delegate that and learn how to teach that skill so that you're not doing it anymore, and so that there's a fail-safe
at every point. Right. So now when I think about my business, I think about systems, and I think about, okay, how do I make this a duplicatable process? At every point.
Got that.
And that's how you grow.
So it's funny. I always make fun of people who are like, oh, you know, I read 100 books this year. It's like, you're almost the kind of person who seems to have done that. Like, how many books do you read a year?
I read a book a week.
Oh, you do? Okay. Do you skim it, or what is it that you do?
It depends. Sometimes I'll put an Audible on at 2x and have it on my Amazon Kindle so that I can hear it and read it at the same time.
And that is a huge nugget to the audience for podcasting. I'm not telling you to do it for my podcast, but if you speed it up a little bit, you really get to the nugget. I mean, it does save time. And so you're able to hit several. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dan Sullivan, the 10X is easier than 2X book, which is fantastic. That dude drones. Like, you on 2X is normal speed for him. Like, you could 3X that book. So it really depends on the author.
Yeah.
Some people speak really fast, but other people just like take their time. And you're like, 2.5, let's go. You know. But it also you also train your brain when you do listen to things that quickly. You kind of get used to hearing those things. That's why I also notice I talk very fast, and I'm like, oh, I got to slow down. I'm also in 2X speed right now, because I'm like, and then this, and then this, and then this, right? Yeah. So,
okay, I want to go back to something that you had talked about really quick, and that was that you're this actor. You have a confidence of being able to get in front of the camera, being able to sell a product, sell a film. No problem. You have no problem. You're paid for it. But when it came to doing it for yourself, you had that imposter syndrome. Like, campaigns on cover magazines and I've done all that. And one of the things that I had to overcome is, why does somebody want to see me pitching myself online or on a podcast or read my book? It was like, my epiphany was like, people pay me to do this, to be the face of X, Y, and Z. Like, why can I not own it myself? And so that was a big coming to Jesus moment for myself. Was like, I am worth it. Like, why am I letting the naysayers in my mind do that? How did you overcome that? Like, was there something that you self-talked to yourself, or like, I have got this? Was it surrounding yourself around people? Was it becoming more educated? Was it just taking that leap? What was the moment that you realized you're like, you know what? If I get paid to do it on the screen, why can't I work on my own brand and image?
I was sitting in a parking lot at Ralph's in Los Angeles, and I was pursuing my acting career real heavy in 2008. And I was getting nowhere, right? I was working for a company called Jesco, and we would do the infomercials inside the grocery stores where we would do like kitchen choppers and, you know, knives or whatever. And I'm sitting there going, what am I doing? Right? Like I'm spending all of this time building somebody else's brand and working for somebody else when I could be spending this. And I wasn't really working. I was busting my ass and not making that much, right? I was like,
but really wanted to a kid when you get $1,000 for the day, it's like, that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah. And I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go back to New Orleans, and I'm gonna make my movie Bourbon Whiz, which is right here. This is The Wizard of Oz meets Bourbon Street, right? And it was a ridiculous movie. I worked on Bourbon Street for 8 years. And there's a crackhead instead of a scarecrow, and it was ridiculous. And so I was like, but I want to make this movie, right? And I rewrote all the music, and I poured my heart and soul into it. And I had done this sitcom ahead of time called Life on Bourbon. Let me just back it up real quick. So I was working on Bourbon Street, and I was producing this project called Life on Bourbon that I wanted to star in as an MC on Bourbon Street and kind of talk about my life. And the director at the time said, I will direct it and edit it for you for free if I can direct it. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, do it. We shot 10 days. He accidentally knocks it over the hard drive, and we lose everything. And that's what sent me to LA, right? So that's what sent me to LA. I got to LA, was there for a while, and I was like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a movie, right? Because I didn't want to be known as the guy that starts a project and didn't finish. So I was like, whatever I do, hell or high water, I'm going to make this Bourbon Whiz movie, and I will finish it. And I did. I finished it, and I sent it to festivals, and we won some festivals, and I bought 1,000 copies of this, 1,000. And I went door to door in the French Quarter, and I sold this door to door. Well, I pitched it. I still remember, hey guys, nothing too serious right here. Do you guys like movies? I just made a movie. I'm the director, producer of it. It's called Bourbon Whiz. It's about Dorothy. She lives in Kansas, and she can't drink on Sunday because of dry county laws. And so she ends up eating a bunch of mushrooms. She ends up falling on top of a stripper, gets a ruby red G-string. She meets a crackhead instead of a scarecrow, a living statue instead of a tin man. It's hilarious. It's $20. Yeah, great, right? It's how I actually started my business. I started my production company off of the money that I made selling that. And I went to Comic-Cons, and I sold this movie. And that's how I, started my production company full-fledged. So yeah, it was that moment. I was like, I can either let the fact that Life on Bourbon, I knocked it over, and I could have let that be the story, or I could come back and not. And so oddly enough, I rewrote Life on Bourbon, and I finished it. And so the episode, the pilot is finished, and I'm releasing it in March.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, yeah. I love that you say that you did not want to be known as the guy who didn't finish something that you started. Yeah. And I think that also carries over to your production company and the clients that you work with. It's like they can trust that you are someone who puts his heart and soul into it. Your team does the same thing, but then you also, it's going to get done and you're not going to knock the hard drive over. And I guarantee you, if you did, you would man up and you would redo it and you would finish it anyhow. You would take that responsibility because that's the person that you are.
100%.
So,
we got three. We back up on 3 hard drive. Everybody knows this story. Everybody knows this. Everybody that works for me knows this story inside and out. They know.
It happens. Like I've written when I was writing the book, like all of a sudden I didn't save, and you think that it saves, and unless you're checking it, you lose all of that work. We've all been in that. Your hard drive breaks or your computer breaks. Like you always got to have that backup. And that is you. That is your team. That is you personally, and that is your company. So, how can people find out more about you and what you're doing, and how you may or may not be able to help them, and if they're a good fit for you?
We're LeducEntertainment.com is where people can find us. Armando Leduc, I'm everywhere on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, the whole 9. And we're prolific. We're putting out content daily. Several times a day.
Very professionally. Like what you do is cinematic. What you do is professional, and you bring let's say for a law firm, for example, or an entrepreneur, like you're making them shine. You really bring that authentic self. You're sharing their message and you're bringing it to life. And so there is a difference by doing it by yourself. And then there is a difference about bringing somebody on who is an expert at it. And that's what you're doing.
Appreciate it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that endorsement. We take pride in doing a good job, right? Like we don't want to just, we work with people on a monthly basis and we want them to continue to be clients. So,
but you're not only in Louisiana, like you travel, you do it. You don't have to be based there to work with you.
Correct. Yeah. We've got clients all over the country. So we either fly out to them, they fly out to us. We do a lot of virtual shoots, so we can do that too. There's, we have a lot of different options for people to work with us. If they just want consulting and they want us to work with their team, we can do that too. We can be their team. We can, post for them too. Like everything what I didn't want is for us to not be able to solve their problem from beginning to end. So if they didn't have a team to distribute the content, I was like, well, we'll do it for you. Right. And we found the people to do that. If you didn't have the brainstorming and what it is that we want to shoot, we got that. If you want people to come in and shoot, we got that too. Definitely can edit all of the things that you need. So.
Well, and you're a powerhouse now. I mean, you have a huge team behind you, an organization, and you're very professional, and you're so personable, and you're traveling all the time, and people can find you easily. And I know that you personally reach out to those people, and your team does as well. And you are top notch, Armando. And I truly appreciate all the nuggets that you've given today. I appreciate you being a part of my confidence team and my brainstorming, because you and we've jumped on conversations. You've given me tips about improving the podcast, how to scale myself as a business. And so I look up to you, and you are a mentor to me, Armando, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate the time that you've given us and the audience today.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this. Was one of my favorite podcasts. You did a good job.
Do you like the Blue Stiley podcast, or were you did you love the Navigating No?
I love the book, and I love this interaction. Mm-hmm. I just think I think you do a really good job hosting a show. Not everybody does, right? Like I try to teach that too. It's like, improv.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that has changed my life and
me
podcasting.
Too.
Yeah, does such a good job, right? The 3 rules of improv are say yes and, right? Make your partner look like they're a rock star, and say the first thing that comes to your head, right? And so you being the listener that you are and the engaging person that you are allows me to be my authentic self, right? And then continuing to foster that energy allows me to really step into it, right? Which is a beautiful thing.
Well, and you're able to put your intent and purpose behind it. What brings that value out of you? And it shines. It's a natural shine, and you are that person. And man, I just love our conversations, and I love where you're going, and I can't wait to see where you end up going in the next year and 3 years and 5 years, because that number behind you better be a lot more zeros pretty soon, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
I love you. Thank you so much for your time today, Armando. And I will plug people, and I'll tell you what, you just keep making a difference in this world, mister.
Thank you. You too, man.
I'm trying one subscriber at a time. If this episode brings you value or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.